Yep, that's right. I'm back, to do another Italian horror movie review. This time I'm coming at you with another Lucio Fulci movie called The House by the Cemetery, which is a great title in my opinion. It's just like, oh man, all hell is gonna break loose. I don't think I just thought of that right now. That's not the real tagline or anything like that, but it'd be cool if it was. So this movie I hadn't seen until, I don't know, at some point. I think it came out. I think this was kind of like, I don't know if this was more or less like a public domain movie. It seemed like, these DVD outfits that put out public domain movies put this out originally, and they may have even put it out widescreen, but anyway. I saw it a while back, like in the early zeros, like in maybe '02 or '03 or something like that, and just it's very forgettable. And then, like, I don't know at what point Blue Underground, I think it is, ended up putting it out on Blu-ray, and I think I probably got it for, I hope I got it for a reasonable price, because I just bought it when it came out. I'm like, oh, House by the Cemetery. Because I'd seen it once before, and I figured I couldn't really remember anything about it, but I'm like, it's gotta be worth buying. It's Lucio Fulci, and it's early '80s gore or whatever. But anyway, I recently rewatched the Blu-ray, which looks fantastic. I mean, it looks fantastic. The Blu-ray looks good, but yeah, I hope I didn't pay a lot for it. But whatever, it's under the bridge. The water is the it's all water under the bridge, whatever. So it's bought and paid for, but. I rewatched this and was relatively, I guess we can say more, I guess I can say, it's almost like just like a what the F movie, like I said in my last review of the Lucio Fulci movie Zombie that, a lot of these Italian horror movies, particularly Lucio Fulci and stuff, I mean, I guess I like Dario Argento more. For me, Fulci is more of just a lowbrow, almost, I don't want to say ghetto, but it's not on par, for in my opinion, with it's notches below Dario Argento, or at least the classic '70s '80s Argento. It's but I mean, not saying that there's still not great music and great effects, gore effects and zombie effects, but as a whole, just kind of like maybe not, in my opinion, as entertaining as the classic great Dario Argento movies. Like this movie, I rewatched, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's just like nothing, if no one's dying or something, like it just doesn't know what the hell it wants to do. And I'll be very surprised if any script was even put down on paper for this movie. I mean, if it was, I mean, it must have been like black, ink on black page, I mean, or white ink on white paper. I mean, if it was written and put down on paper, it's almost like, yeah. I mean, the premise is kind of cool, where it's just actually, I couldn't even, maybe I was tired when I watched it anyway, I don't know. I like the bit at the beginning with like this girl who's, maybe I was tired when I watched, maybe I watched it late, but I don't know if these, like this girl who's in the picture that disappears and who's not in the picture, who warns Bob, this young boy who's like just got this face, it's just like, wow, it's quite the face for a young boy. But he got this young boy Bob and this family that move into this house by the cemetery, and it looks like a lot like the house in what, Silent Night Bloody Night, that movie that me and Matt have reviewed. It looks a lot like that same kind of house, probably in the same general area as that house. But they move into this house by the cemetery, and of course for the movie they just put cemetery stones by the house. I mean, and it's just like there's this girl who I think is like a ghost, that for some reason is in communication with Bob, and there's this cool thing at the beginning where it's like they show a picture of her in a window, like warning Bob not to go, and then if anyone else looks at the picture, she's not there. And I don't know. I was too bored to freaking follow like the history. Maybe that girl was a part of the family that lived in this house originally. I can't remember anything about the backstory or whatever. I think like the movie features this professor, I think, guy who I think his boss had died. I can't remember. Long story short, in my opinion, this movie is just like humdrum, whatever, just barely moved along. And the only good thing about it, in my opinion, is just, well, the music, which is just, classic, pretty good Italian horror music. And then just the kills are so, utterly repulsive. I mean, almost to the point where, of course, I'm getting on in years. But I've stated before that I'm getting less and less, not less and less, I don't know, I guess I'm getting a little maybe squeamish in my old age, and although the teenage part of me, when they see one of these kills in this movie in particular, it's kind of like, oh man, that's nasty. There's a part of me, this old fogey part, that's like, oh, how revolting, And like when they killed that, I think this cute, babysitter. I'm surprised. I don't think there's any nudity. Oh, there's a little bit of tits in the very beginning, where two kids are like just got done screwing or whatever. So there is nudity in this, but it's not as much as you'll find normally in a Lucio Fulci movie or whatever. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, when the cute babysitter got her throat slashed, and it's just like it's so nasty because it's just like so. God, there's a word I can't think of for it. Just like they not only slash it, but they just slash it from this side, and then the blood pours out, and then they'll slash it from this side, and it's just so sadistic. That's the word that I couldn't think of. It's just the violence is just so. It's almost like even me, like this horror fanatic, is just like going, oh God, And I imagine there's maggots in this movie as well. I mean, I know that when they stab the killer, who ends up being, I don't know, I can't remember who the killer is. I don't know why I can't remember anything about this movie, but I don't know if the killer is his former boss. I don't know. Sorry to you House by the Cemetery fans. Yes, it's kind of my recall on this movie is just non-existent. But there's a combination, I think, of maggots and mud or whatever that comes out of this killer zombie as at the end when he's stabbed or whatever. But it's so sad. Like I think at the end of the movie, the kids' dad and mom die too, and the kid's going up the ladder and he's all trapped, and it's really like, gosh, killing both dad and mom, and just this kid who's like under 10 years old. Ugh. But at the end of the day, I mean, the kills are great, but that's all in music, and that's all, in my opinion, has really got to say about The House by the Cemetery. I'm gonna go 1 star for House by the Cemetery out of 4. 1 out of 4 stars. Everything I do, or me and Matt do, is out of 4 stars, it should be noted. Some people do 5, so I just thought that I should say it's 4. We go up to 4, 1 out of 4 stars. So for House by the Cemetery, really, when I just rewatched it recently, it was really hard for me to get through, I'll tell you that. So I wouldn't recommend it necessarily unless it's just super cheap or whatever, but for me it might be my least favorite Lucio Fulci movie that I've seen. So there you are. Thank you very much for watching my House by the Cemetery review, and I'll catch you next time.